The worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we are a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in a popular and not so popular horror franchise. And today we are talking about Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, directed by Rob Hedden. So we're getting out of Crystal Lake, John.
We are.
I always ask you this. Had you seen this one? I don't think you had, correct?
Nope.
All right. So I'm assuming that you were super excited to see Jason slaughtering his way through all boroughs of New York City from moment 1 to moment 90, you know, all the way
Nothing
through.
But New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, I'm surprised. I mean, they barely spend any time at all in Crystal Lake. Mm-hmm. It's all New York.
All New York.
Very surprising.
Yeah, all the time. You see the taxi driver, you see some chuds. Like it is New York through and through. Mm-hmm. No, it's barely at all. But that's what people remember from it.
Yep.
Yeah. So this came out in 1989, directed by Rob Hedden, and I don't think he had any major credits to his name before this. Kind of a typical thing for this kind of movie, I think.
Yeah, and that's kind of wild. Like I think he did stuff for the TV show.
Oh, yes.
It's kind of wild until you think about it. Because you look at like the Marvel movies now and that stuff where it's like, who do you know who directs most of these? No. You know, they just get whoever, like, oh, that person's hot right now. Let's get them. So it's the same kind of thing, except instead of who's hot, it's who's available and cheap.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you bring up the TV show. And of course, I guess it is important to mention that by now there was a television show about Friday the 13th. And I was kind of like holding off on talking about that too much until we kind of wrap up the series, perhaps. But there was a TV series probably on Fox is what I would guess. So there was a whole, like this series had become so popular that now it demanded to be on the small screen. And I guess, yeah, you're right. This guy was directing some TV episodes of it, and they decided to let him take a crack at the movie. And the first thing he said is, "Does it have to be at Crystal Lake?"
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing. Is, you know, we talk about like the left turns this thing makes, and this is the 8th movie in a franchise.
Yep.
Do you want to just keep doing the same thing? No, but at the same time, this really kind of jettisons everything about the franchise up to this point, other than there's Jason in the hockey mask. I mean, talk about the Marvel stuff, like the differences in lore. Like I don't doubt for a moment that there are people hired by the studios or whose job it is to be like, well, continuity wise, this happened and this happened. Mm-hmm. So we, in this crossover and this, you know, in the TV show, it was this, so it's got to be this in the movie.
Yep.
With this, they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
Man, just have them stab people.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think either one is correct, but like the complete jettisoning of most everything you would want to see in a Jason movie to just be stabbing, it's kind of like, why is this? I think the biggest flaw this movie has is that it's a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, completely.
If this is this the Adventures of Volstab and Gary, no problem.
Right. Yeah. And of course, just to start it all off, I mean, like, this is what we keep going back to all the time. This is what we came back to with Jason versus Carrie, essentially being like, do you want something different or do you want it the same? And people cry about it either way. But when it's something different and it's actually good, people will respond. You know, and I could forgive so much about this movie if it was just good. Or fun to watch, and it's not even really fun to watch aside from a few bits. You know, this one hurt a bit.
Yeah, it's the longest one, and it feels the longest. I don't know. I don't hate it as much as 5 because 5 just comes from just such a dark place of the soul that just feels bad to watch. Yeah, this one is some guy who and you watch interviews with him, whatever, that he's having fun and he doesn't care.
Right,
and it's aggravating if you're invested in this. That you're like, well, why didn't you care? This was, you know, I still don't like, I like Kane Hodder's Jason, but still Jason is a guy as a cultural icon still kind of escapes me. But to just kind of be like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. 6, 7, and 8 are like the Star Wars sequels. Like 5 is Solo. Solo. Like it's just kind of this like, why did you even do that? Forget it. But like the lore keeps changing. What Jason is sort of keeps changing. And it's just like no one's listening to what came before. And they're like, no, I got this. I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah. And the producers don't really care because they just they know what they've got on their hands and they just want to keep cranking it out.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the fundamental problem with this is just, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like the whole point of Jason is like you go into his woods and you get stabbed. You know, like
right.
you invade his territory. I'm not saying he's a valiant defender or anything like that, but like, you know, you come onto Crystal Lake and he's going to have a problem with you. He leaves. So, like, why does he hate these people so much? You know?
Yeah, that was the thing I had. A question I had repeatedly through it is like, why is he after them specifically? There's so many people to kill in New York.
Right. And
why are you just after them?
I know, like, looking for motivation in slasher movies it could be a fool's errand, but at the same time, like, I think it's fair to at least like pose that question occasionally. Like, and it's usually apparent in some of these, but you know. He just kind of hitchhikes along on a boat named Lazarus because he just came back from the dead.
Yeah. Ooh.
And we're off to the races. So, I don't know. Like I've got a lot of different kind of conflicting thoughts on this. And the film opens in New York, this like montage of how disgusting New York in the 80s is. And if you like 80s trashy, like slasher movies, there's 100 of these. And I think they're fun. I like that era of like grimy New York, all that stuff. But
I will say this for the movie. Like, I like the way it looks.
Yep.
Really, like all the New York stuff, I feel like I'm getting a staph infection from watching. It's just grimy.
Yes.
Everything's wet. Not just Jason is constantly wet, but everything is just gross and gnarly looking. It's colorful. It's surprisingly colorful for being a Jason film. So to Brian Englund was the director of photography. So him and Rob Hedden, like, kudos to you for that. I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, and right. I also think about the 80s Reagan era type of stuff, and I don't always agree with the argument of the conservative bent of these movies, you know, because I feel like that's kind of surface level. But I was thinking about it in terms of like this is the first time that we're going to the big dangerous city, which is a very like kind of conservative idea of like, no matter what you do, the moment you step foot on concrete in there, you will get like carjacked, robbed, murdered, like something terrible will happen. And throughout this entire film, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. And no one will care that it's happening.
But I did read an article. I forgot to write the person's name down. But this author was comparing the Death Wish movies to Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is a funny idea because I guess I don't know all the Death Wish sequels, but like the first one, Charles Bronson is kind of like a valiant, you know, he's kind of a hero. By the fourth movie, he's just mowing down criminals. And I was just like, is that kind of what Jason is doing in this film? You know, like same era, 80s, like Reagan conservative warrior type of stuff.
I mean, that would be a way to go with this, but like he walks by so much stuff just to get at these people.
Totally.
If it was just Jason, like somehow just the way they get him there is dumb.
Yep.
Admittedly, they will admit not really thought through. But like if you somehow, so he wasn't like stalking the same two people, but he's just in New York and people like know that he's in New York and have to stop him versus he's hunting them. Because it doesn't make much sense because like you said, he's got a stomping grounds so much so that after he dies, quote unquote, in 3, he's making his way back there in 4. Like he's always going back to Crystal Lake.
It's his home.
So to have him go somewhere else and not like deal with that at all. Like it's interesting to take him somewhere else, but the idea that he's just like, no, I'm just going to kind of do what I'm going to do here. Or I made this choice to go out here almost. Because why does he stay on the boat after he kills those people?
Yeah.
At the beginning, like he just does. Like there's a significant amount of time that he's just like, oh, I mean, he did just come back to life. Maybe he needs a breather. Yep,
he needs to relax on the deck of a boat.
But that opening, I was kind of already gritting my teeth a little bit when it opened because that opening song sounds like Jason's training to win the big game. Like it's totally like a montage. Song. And I was like, okay, this is different. But
definitely different. Yeah. So yeah, there's this whole setup of montage of New York, and then we are right back to Crystal Lake. So it is a funny, like, yeah, we'll get there eventually, guys. You know, this is we did advertise this as Jason Takes Manhattan. We're not there yet. We need to spend an hour getting. You know,
this. I guess a lot of this comes from the fact that Rob Hedden wants to get out of Crystal Lake and had all these big ideas for New York, and just increasingly they were like, yeah, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. Oh, we're not doing that. But some of his ideas sounded really dumb.
Absolutely.
Like he just wanted to be like, is there a landmark in New York? Jason does something to it.
Yeah, a fight on the Brooklyn Bridge. We'll get to it later, but the boxing match was supposed to be literally in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Through this montage of New York, they do a close-up on guys shooting what I suppose is heroin, because you automatically associate that with a syringe. The one guy that's shooting it into his arm already has a syringe in his arm. And so it's like, yeah. So there's like, New York is so messed up that you shot 2 syringes of drugs into your arm. Oh, that made me laugh.
I also love during that opening scene that there's this weird voiceover that is revealed to be the DJ the 2 kids on the yacht are listening to.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's giving this ominous, like, New York's a shithole. Congratulations to the class of Crystal Lake. You're coming to visit.
Yeah.
I'm reporting this on the radio for some reason, but it's like, this is a bad place. I don't know. It's like, what is that? WRLF?
Right.
All Ralph predictions all the time.
It's all Harbinger
followed
Radio.
by a 90-minute rock block. Yeah.
New York has a death curse.
On your FM dial.
After we get the montage of New York, we get our first couple having sex in a boat. And this, like, it just made me laugh out loud immediately when I saw a boat in Crystal Lake, because it's always set up as this kind of like serene, small family lake. Now there's a, not a luxury liner or anything in there, but it's a big ass boat in the middle of Crystal.
It's not a canoe.
Immediately, I was just like, well, how did it get here? I always thought of the lake as like you could see the other side of the shore, but I guess not. Whatever.
You think about it, that's valuable property. That's lakefront property.
It's true.
And so people probably in the go-go 80s bought it up.
So yeah, these 2 kids are having sex, and one of them ends up just saying like he gives the Jason backstory just to scare his date, and which is obviously like a thing that kids will do in this series, but it skips on to him just like scaring her while holding the Jason mask up.
Yeah, he just happened to
Why
have
does he have the Jason mask?
Well, it's also that this is the first one that doesn't have a previously on.
Oh, that's true. So yeah, that's why he needs a little story.
This is the oral history of Jason, and so I don't know if that's their way of trying to go like, we're not really connected to the other movies. This is just the idea of it, because so much of what they do with Jason doesn't have anything to do with the other movies.
So yeah, we've got the boat, and even the director at this time, he was just like, I don't care how the boat got in and out, and I'm fine with that. It's just fun to notice, but I don't care. That's not what I'm here for. The guy, I believe his name is Jim, is recounting the story of Jason, and we see Jason as a kid in a flashback.
He's not deformed.
Yes.
He has hair, and his eyes are fine.
Right.
Okay.
But anyway, they drop an anchor, and the anchor hits an underwater electrical line and shocks Jason back to life.
Now I love this. I'm sorry. This rules.
Yeah.
it's no less dumb than the I'm going to stab him and then lightning's going to strike it. It doesn't have the added like gothic fantastical nature or the like Jason is now one with nature the sixth one has. But if you're just like, look, you dum-dums, we just need to get it back. That's a kind of a dumb thing that I can get really hyped about.
Yeah, it's
like you didn't over-explain it. You just went, no, there's this cable, and an anchor hit it.
Yeah, and you know what happens when you bust open an electrical cable. You get shocked. And if you're dead, you get shocked back to life. Done.
Which I still am fascinated by what that's like for Jason. Are you aware that you've been dead? Is it just like, does it not matter?
He only knows when he's awake.
Like, when you wake up, you're like, yeah, it's just like, well, boy, I probably backed up on murders.
Yeah.
I better get that. Like clearing out your email inbox.
Right. Yeah, Jason climbs aboard the boat. Jason just shoots Jim with a harpoon gun. And then he shoots at Susie, misses, and she gets away. And then he stalks her around the boat. And in kind of an awkward, like kind of uncomfortable scene, he kind of like plays with her a little bit and then stabs her as well.
Yeah, he's really enjoying throughout this entire movie, really enjoying the kills. In the past, it's been a lot more just like
utilitarian.
Boom, yeah, but this is a little bit like the fake Jason in 5, where he's kind of relishing in some of his cruelty.
Sure.
Which I'm surprised you didn't notice this. I rewound it several times when Jason first climbs up onto the boat, and he is just gushy. This whole movie, he's just gushy. Yeah. When his hand grabs the railing on the side, it sounds like a fart. and it's just gross. But it made me laugh.
You fill up with gas when you're at the bottom of a lake for too long.
That's true.
Suppose,
yeah,
you know?
And it's not like he has shame.
No.
So it's,
what are you going to say to Jason?
Yeah.
So we cut away from there. That's as they do in the James Bond series. That's the opening adventure right there.
Right. Yeah.
It's like the first two people who are killed off, and we get Jason back established. So in the next shot, we're introduced to our hero, a young woman named Rennie, who is dropped off by a teacher who I thought was her mom at first. Yeah.
I don't know. So did I. Because it seems like she's her mom.
Why is a teacher driving a 18-year-old woman to it is a school function. I don't know, but... Yeah,
but she's 18. Yeah. She can't drive herself, and she can't go... They spend a lot of time obfuscating what Rennie's whole deal is and her relationships to other people in ways that don't pay off.
They don't pay off at all. Yeah.
Like, why? You didn't need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
This was a bad move.
There's a dog in the back seat. And you have opinions on this dog?
Yes, I do. Well, not so much the dog, but on Rennie.
It's pretty cute.
And this is not... Well, slam on Rennie. I don't know. This is not a way to endear me to your lead, because they're being dropped off, or Rennie is being dropped off by mom teacher to go on this cruise that the seniors of Crystal Lake High are taking to go to New York as part of some like senior party or something like that. The Mrs. Van Heusen, I think her name is, has a tete-a-tete with the crusty old dean, who's also her uncle, Rennie's uncle, about the trip. And then she's like, well, we have one more, revealing that it's Rennie. Oh, but we don't have one more. We have two more. Rennie brought along her fucking dog.
Yeah.
And of course didn't mention it.
Right.
That's my problem. Because dog people will do that. They'll be like, oh, I can't bring my dog to this fancy dinner that you're having? Oh, I never even considered checking that.
Right.
So that I've had so many bad experiences with dog people like that. And I know not all dog people.
Yes, of course.
But it's just like, that was the first thing. It's like, we have one more. No, you don't. You have two.
Yeah.
The dog's there too. Why would you take a dog on a cruise?
On a cruise and then into New York too. I mean, and then into, gee whiz. Yeah.
Yeah. Emotional support animal, I guess.
Right. There you go. The teacher gives her a gift that is a pen that was used by Stephen King.
In high school.
I can't decide if I like that or I hate it. Like, I think I like it because it was like at least in the 80s instead of like a modern day thing, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. I also am pretending that Stephen King went to Crystal Lake High School. Right. Because like that makes a lot of sense.
That tracks.
Yeah.
And that's how Carrie got into part 7.
Right. Yeah.
And we get Peter Mark Richmond, who plays the crusty old dean. Who did you recognize him from anything before?
He looked really, really familiar.
Agent from Harm, baby.
Oh my God, that is totally Agent from Harm. Oh wow,
that's Agent from Harm.
He wasn't at a judo range, so no wonder.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I knew him from somewhere at like Twilight Zone episodes. He's been in Dynasty, but I know him just from repeated viewings of Mystery Science Theater's Agent from Harm.
So funny.
So of course, this whole time, like I keep thinking of like Agent from Harm jokes.
I was too distracted by how much his whole face like is designed to scowl. Like all his wrinkles are like all focus your eye into the scowl. It's impressive face work.
Really goes against the whole idea of it takes more muscles to frown than to smile. I bet it's easier for him to just frown all the time.
Yeah, it's just his natural state.
We cut to the cabin. Is that what you call a cabin? No. Where do you drive the boat? Where's the steering wheel? The bridge.
The bridge.
Yes. That's not just for spaceships. The bridge of the boat. The captain is hanging out with his son and clearly wants his son, who is Sean, I believe, our other kind of hero for the film, tells him to get the ship underway, and he doesn't do it correctly, and Sean storms out. And boy, that captain is a little disappointed in his son, but in kind of more of a melancholy way, I think.
Well, yeah, like later he's like talking to his like first mate, and he's like, "Let me give you some advice. Don't push him too hard."
Yeah.
You asked him to do one thing, he messed up, and then you corrected him, and then he walked out.
Teens.
I'm the worst dad ever.
Yes.
This poor captain. I felt so bad for him.
I did too. He was perfectly fine, and he had like a perfectly lovable like old man face, you know?
But it's also like, what do you think pushing too hard is? Like,
don't make me be a ship captain in front of my friend's dad. Next scene, we as soon as you see this guy swapping the deck, you know that he's our harbinger right away.
Oh gosh,
I like this guy. Yeah.
So as soon as Sean storms out, he is confronted with this deckhand who's just like,
this voyage is doomed.
Yeah, this is basically their makeshift Ralph, and I have several theories about him. In that he is actually from another country, and these are the only phrases he learned to speak phonetically in English. Or that there is a small village in Europe somewhere just full of Ralphs. Mm-hmm. Like it's just that this is the Harbinger village, and their main export is doomsaying.
We pan down or tilt down and see Jason climbs up the side of the boat, and we that's where we first see that the boat is named Lazarus.
Oh, Lazarus.
Yeah.
That's some bare naked ladies ass cleverness there. It's like, right? See what I did there?
Yeah. Yeah. We've got we slowly get introduced to our teens here. One of them, JJ, I believe, is shooting a music video, asking about what she thinks of this axe that she's got, that she brought aboard.
Well, that's what's great, because so you've established Rennie, played by Jensen Daggett. That's a name that you find in like an airport mystery novel.
Yeah.
It's such a fantastic name.
Yeah.
So after that, she goes up onto the boat, and the crusty old dean is unhappy about this because of she's got a reason for not wanting to be there. And that reason is cut away to this shot of them being filmed by some guy. And then, JJ, who's this rock and roll Joan Jett looking person. I wonder where they got the name JJ.
Yeah.
Playing her sick guitar. Again, like needlessly obfuscating what Rennie's whole deal is. Because it wasn't mysterious. It was just annoying that you kept doing that.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it affected much. But JJ's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's just rocking on this guitar. And I also just like the idea that what are kids into? Rock music? Yeah, make one of them a rocker.
Yeah.
Something stupid like that, like naming your character Podcast or something.
Sure.
She has this idea that she wants to go down to the power room to get some real good acoustics down there.
Acoustics for a music video.
Miles, who's filming her, says like,
yeah, they gotta get some shockumentary footage first.
Oh, man. Don't tell me you're still trying to scam on Tamara. How long have we known each other? Don't be a dweeb, Wayne. She's not interested in you, only what you can do for her. She is a user.
She's sexy.
So what? So's this guitar.
Hell yes.
Yes. Singularly focused.
Because it's not like, I think you're attractive. And I kind of like, it's like,
right.
No, this guitar fucking rules. Yeah. What are you doing? This is so cool.
There's a big storm predicted for tonight. What it says with the dean, or, he's an agent for doom now, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He's just worried about the storm that's coming up.
He's very Gul Dukat looking.
Yeah, there you go.
That guy.
Yeah. JJ's back down in the lower decks of the ship to film. Jason sneaks up because there's not too much like rock in the air, like he can really like sense, there's something needs to be done here, and smacks her with the guitar.
Yeah, this is the first of many, many, many examples in this movie where Jason's ability to bilocate is just tremendous. She sees him on the stairs, turns, runs down the stairs, only to find him with the guitar. Mm-hmm. Like you get the sense. The way that Rob Hedden has talked about in interviews, kind of talked about this movie and just some of the decisions that were made. It does seem like he just wanted to do it. Like he's like, well, that would be fun. Let's just do that. Rather than thinking like, why could we do that and have it be fun, but also have it make sense? He was not interested in that.
There's part of me that really respects that in some ways too.
Yes.
Just like, don't let logic or good storytelling get in the way of fun.
As Victor Miller has said. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And honestly, and I've said this before, you make this thing Italian, boom, I'm on board. Like, you take Jason out of it and you just have it be, whatever I said, Murder and Gary. And like, yeah, it's great. But because it's Jason, you're like, no, that's not what Jason does.
Yeah.
Or, like you're disrespecting this murderer somehow. Because, it just feels off. Like, look what they're doing to my boy.
Yeah. Yes.
This doesn't seem right. Jason's bilocated. Yeah, Jason's bilocated before, but not
to the
degree he does in this. Yeah. Like this just does not make sense geographically at all.
We then cut to a shot of Jason just walking around deck, and this again, it reminded me of one of the two previous episodes where now the camera is just hanging out with Jason a little bit more. It's like way different because the audience wants to see Jason now. And so now he's a point of view character. You know, we're not even following our final girl as much. I mean, I could be wrong on the actual time amounts spent with each, but like, it's just strange now. Well, not that strange, but like, because Jason's who we've come to see. So we're just going to get shots of him walking around, hanging out. Whereas it used to be just like, he pops out and slashes someone.
Right. They might try to create characters around him. And this one they went, well, we kind of made some sketches and that'll be good enough.
Jason starts spying on Rennie and she's in a cabin. She starts hearing something from a porthole. And
that's a cool shot though.
I
like we
totally
Jason,
agree.
Well, so he's walking down the stairs. The camera is like in front of him and kind of tracking him. He walks up to the porthole. The camera turns to the porthole and then goes through the porthole.
Yeah,
and I thought that was a neat effect. And I like that. Yeah, Rennie starts hearing things. Starts hearing a small child and turns around and sees this ghost of Jason in green water pounding on the window.
Yeah.
So I understand maybe with the idea of wanting to perhaps move forward with the idea presented in 7, the final girl, whatever, has some connection to Jason.
Sure.
Maybe perhaps some sort of psychic thing or something like that. They seem like they're trying to do that again. And in fact, they had an idea to bring the heroine from the 7th one back after like being in a mental institution. Laura Park had an idea to write her own script about Tina. And then the dude that played Nick wrote his own script about how Nick was actually the killer and part 7 was a dream sequence.
Oh, good grief.
But yeah, they went no to any of that and had Rob Hedden write and direct, which always makes me wonder, like, was that a money saving move?
Of course. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the first time we get a shot of Rennie having a vision of Jason. And so, you know, your imagination runs wild. Is she some like part of some occult group who might be chasing him down? Does she have like witch powers? You know, I start getting a little excited, you know, just thinking like, ooh, supernatural something. And this is the time, by this point, I think Freddy had started to eclipse Jason and people wanted this supernatural elements, myself included, what I tend to gravitate towards. So I think they started thinking like, we need to incorporate some sort of like visions or something.
Yeah, like some much more sort of fantastical elements into it other than just a hulking murder zombie kind of guy. This same year that this came out, Halloween Part 5 and The Dream Child, I think.
Dream Child is 5, yeah.
I think even that one came out. So this was, and all those are pretty frowned upon in those different franchises.
Sure.
So this was a rough year.
Bad year for fans.
Horror.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. There's definitely like whether that came from Rob Hedden himself or like from the studio, I don't know, but there's definitely a lot more of like, no, we need to elevate this to a more dreamlike, ghosty kind of level, supernatural level.
So what do? You have someone who has visions. Fine. And there's got to be a really fun, really supernatural kind of out there reason why she has those visions, and we'll get there. You know, we'll get there. Yeah.
They've been hiding it for so long. You know, it's going to be
good. Yeah. Then we cut to 2 of the other teens who are boxing for fun on the boat. On the boat, I have so many questions about this. They keep boxing equipment on the boat. Okay, fine. Or maybe they brought him. Well, I guess the one kid is a boxer, so maybe he travels with boxing equipment.
Right.
You know, I'm pretty self-aware of just like, I didn't have the same teenage experience as a lot of teens in movies do. That usually like, you know, I wasn't like on the football team or something. They elevated this to boxing and now they're not even doing it for sport. They're doing it for fun. Like,
right. Yeah.
I'm on a boat. Like, where's your like D&D manuals and open bar? Not like boxing and I'm going to have to beat the crap out of a friend of mine, you know, like,
those kids all still alive. It's not like you only see Jason kill a handful. Like there's so many people on the boat when it leaves, and like there just seems to be less and less and less. And it's not due to Jason just killing them, unless all that exciting stuff is happening off screen. Yeah, which could very well be like Jason. Just someone actually like blows their saving throw playing D&D, and Jason hacks them. Beautiful.
I think all of those kids drown when the boats go down.
Okay, if you want to get technical about it, maybe.
yes. And 2 young women are spying on the boxing match, and they do some cocaine, who our hero girl stumbles upon.
Well, that was another surprise. Was and I didn't realize this even though her name was in the credits. Kelly Hu. This is her first movie, and she's accomplished actress, martial artist, been in tons of stuff. But I didn't put that together at first. And I was like, oh, wow. Which I like that completely pointless moment where they're spying and then they're talking about how hot Julius is. And then, oh, here comes a hunk.
Gorgeous guy at 10 o'clock. Sensual.
Look sensual.
Yeah.
And then it's just some dope that just like walks by like with tools like, oh, hi. And then he just walks by. That's it. Like, okay.
Look, I believe they stood up at the exact same time too. It was a really well done shot. It did make me laugh.
To look sensual.
Look sensual.
I have that on a note on my bathroom mirror every morning. You got this. Look sensual.
Look sensual, please.
Anyway, yeah, they go off and do cocaine.
Then they get busted by Agent from Harm, McCullough, and the girls think that our hero Rennie narked on them.
And this also introduces the fact that Agent from Harm she has to turn in. I'm sorry, what's it?
Her badge and gun? Oh,
no, I wish she has to turn in her science project, her biology project.
Oh yes.
He's like, well, I'm expecting to see that. Why would you do that on the cruise? Why would it's just an odd choice to make. I think they're about to graduate. I thought they graduated too, or maybe they're the graduating class because they made it sound like it's, she could still be held back, that he still had some sort of authority. She's like, I got a plan for this.
Right.
And she sure does.
Yeah. Yeah. One of our guys who just got bested by Julius, the boxer, lays down in a spa with a towel over his face. And Jason just sort of like saunters into the spa. And I kind of like that shot. It's like an overhead in the corner of Jason just sort of walking in. He picks up a hot rock. And the guy just, he just says out loud,
what do you say we track down those babes later?
And then Jason takes the hot spa rock and shoves the stone into his stomach, which... I don't know about you, but having watched, thousands of horror movies, picking up a stone usually means it goes to the head, right?
Goes to the head, yeah.
I kind of like that they just jam it into the guy's stomach. Like, I wasn't expecting that,
Like I said, this is a little bit more like 5 in that regard, where the kills are designed to be super cruel. Because, I mean, other than, like, I keep bringing it up, but the one that I go to the most is the guy in 4 getting just his shit kicked out of him in the shower.
Yep.
But generally it's Jason just like stab, poke, throw, whatever.
Done.
But this is like, no, I want to make this guy hurt a bit.
Yeah.
Which I also like, this was shot completely after the fact. And like, that's why the guy has the towel on his face, not just to obscure Jason. It's also like, we don't want to pay that extra.
Right. At this point, I have in my notes, when do we get to Manhattan? I'm sure we'll be there soon, but still not to Manhattan.
Any moment.
Yeah,
any
time now. We get this weird scene. Really don't like this, but the popular girl hears that Rennie has a thing for water, has a water phobia, and just straight up knocks her off the ship into the water.
Very, very badly disguised accident. And of course, suffers no consequences for it.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, Rennie basically almost dies.
Yeah.
She's eventually saved from the water.
But we get a pretty good shot of Kid Jason down there pulling on her leg. So she has another vision while she's down there in the water of Kid Jason pulling on her leg. So again, like, man, she's seeing Kid Jason. This must be some cool mystical powers. Like, I'm looking forward to like the big reveal of why she keeps seeing him.
Well, and again, when they drag her up, the Mrs. Mom teacher is like,
Care to talk about it? I can't swim. No kidding. You ever thought about taking lessons? It's not that simple.
I can't possibly talk about it right now. Oh man, this is going to lead to something.
Well, also, yeah, absolutely, totally, and also, it doesn't matter if you're a good swimmer. Someone just got like bum rushed off of the deck of a ship,
into stormy waters.
At this point, she's washing blood off of her hands, and she has another vision of Jason coming through the screen in a purple fog, which totally starts to feel like Freddy territory at this point.
It does feel so much like out of the realm of what this normally is, because even the character that was straight up psychic didn't have this kind of colorful visions. She just saw people getting murdered. So what's going on? And I like it. I think it's neat.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why the look of Jason changed completely, why they decided to do that. As far as like young Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was when I first was like, oh, okay, this is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Now we've got the popular girl trying to seduce Special Agent from Harm, McCullough. And so this scene was uncomfortable for a lot of reasons, but yeah, so she has her biology assignment written on her body. So you can see like the heart, her stomach just drawn onto her like close to naked body.
Yeah, because when he shows up, she's got champagne.
Yep.
He's like, what are you doing? Blah, blah. She's like, well, wait, you haven't seen my biology project. Disrobes, revealing, bra and panties, and she's painted on some organs. And, and I'm going to be honest, it is not a very good biology project.
I would agree.
You're graduating high school, and your biology project is, I know where my tummy is.
Yeah.
Come on.
And my heart.
It'd be funny, he just writes F on her and then leaves.
Right. Well, that was nowhere near good enough. She ends up, trying to seduce him, and they lay down on the bed, and he gets very flustered. But after a couple of minutes, he gets very flustered. I'm
not sure this is a bad idea yet. Maybe I'll figure this out. And in that Crystal Lake documentary, they talk about how the actress actually says like, well, he was very nice and made me feel more comfortable with it. But then he's like, boy, I got a big boner in that scene.
He did say something like that, didn't he?
He's like, I got a little too excited. I'm like, I don't care. No one asked.
Like, and man, the editor of that documentary just like threw him under the bus by putting that in there. Especially because she legit just says, oh, he was really respectful. He was really good. He was so kind. He was a lot older than me at the time, and I felt really comfortable. Boner. Like
boiling. Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
Oof.
Yeah, that's that editor's fault. Well, it's also his fault, but
Yeah. Did they teach you nothing at Harm?
Yeah.
This is terrible.
So yeah, it turns out that Miles was standing by with his delightfully 80s camcorder to
gigantic camcorder
to film them in the act. It was all a big setup, and I do love when McCullough gets upset and flustered at the end, and he runs out and he says, you can forget about attending any film school. And that's the sick burn on him at the end.
Look, I've considered Federico Fellini.
Right.
You're going nowhere.
This is not your year. Now that she's got a tape of evidence, this is her, assurance that she can graduate and all that. So, yay. This is why I come to Jason movies, for these kind of an intrigue,
Well, and as far as the mean girl pantheon goes, like Melissa from Part 7, I like a lot more. Like,
sure,
she's vile, less convoluted in her actions.
Yeah,
this is a long way to go just to like do cocaine in a bunker somewhere.
That's like, a really good point. This was compounding scenes and compounding problems over her just wanting to do a little cocaine, and I'm not advocating that necessarily. I'm just saying like we spend time for her making up for that with like 2 to 3 scenes just to show her off for some reason. I don't know.
Well, I'm guessing that this biology thing was always in play because that dude knew to show up. In fact, made some reference earlier to shockumentary footage or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think the drug thing was just like, well, I better put this plan into action now. I was going to wait till on the way back, but I don't know. It's again like needlessly convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's not been pointless nudity and stuff in Jason movies before. In fact, this one has some of the least amount.
The least,
it still just felt like, why are we spending so much time? I almost more admire Danny Steinman's like, just show boob.
Sure. Yes.
Versus this like complicated dance.
Mm-hmm.
When it's like, just get to Manhattan already.
That's the other thing. Like, why are we in this scene when we should be in Manhattan by now? Poor Miles then soon gets rejected by her, and he runs off. Then we've got a big exterior establishing shot of the boat, and I just wrote down, sure is weird to see this big establishing shot of a boat in a Jason movie, but it's the point, I guess. But every once in a while, this movie does remind you, like, this ain't your daddy's Jason.
As a concept, I like it. It's like Jason being in this more claustrophobic space.
Absolutely.
The spatial reality of the boat never makes any sense or is never fully established. So it doesn't really matter as much. That it's just that scenes happen on all these various places on there, and it's you could be in a hotel. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. In the next scene, our popular girl is taking a shower, and Jason just like pulls her nightgown off and knocks her to the ground. He then punches the mirror, and it's almost as if he's like regarding himself in the mirror for a second. I kind of like that for some reason.
Yeah, I had the same thought because there's this underlying thing through this movie, which we can talk more about at the end, of Jason's self-hatred.
Yeah.
And like what Jason was versus what he's become or something. And I think that's him smashing the mirror is supposed to speak to that. But it's just awesome to watch Kane Hodder do most things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which I love how, so he was the Jason in part 7. So this is his second one, and he's got a name in the credits that's underlined, like, and Kane Hodder underlined. And that kind of blew me away. I'm like, that's how good his Jason was, that in a pretty forgettable movie that he's like, no, yeah. And, they're bringing him back, and like that he is Jason now. And I get it. Like he does bring a lot to this character. He does turn him into this awful ghoul. Yeah. And I love it.
And I'm surprised we didn't say that at the top, but this is the first time that Jason was played by the same actor twice.
Everybody else, 2 actors in one movie, it's one actor in 2 different movies.
Everybody else was a one shot. Kane Hodder found out that they were going to do another one. And he was like, evidently the producers didn't think he would want to do another one. And he was just like, oh, God, no, like, get me to wherever you're filming right now. And I will do this. This is mine now. I like that kind of dedication, obviously. And Kane Hodder is a giant horror fan. So he's just like, heck yeah, I'm going to keep playing Jason and make him mine for as long as possible.
Yeah. And he totally does. I mean, particularly like when you've watched these so close together and like, and you've heard us talk about it, like, yeah, the performances of Jason are fine, but like when you see like what Jason becomes and how he really embodies that, like it's not just a guy in a mask anymore. Like there are certain elements to his physical performance and just like the way he moves and heaves,
breathes,
really, like you wouldn't think about it. Sure. But when you see it, you're like, oh my God, that actually does a lot.
Yeah. And believe me, I don't want to advocate for like a horror fan being a part of a horror franchise, but at the same time, there is something to be said for somebody who really loves this stuff being a part of it instead of like, a hired working man type of actor.
Well, and I think you can make that, take that even further to Rob Hedden, like the director of this. It doesn't seem like he cares that much about Friday the 13th as a thing. And that's good or bad. You know what I mean? Like if you have someone that's like, I actively hate this, I'm going to try to do something with this, that could produce interesting results. But I just think the way he did it seemed like he just made a horror movie and Jason happened to be in it.
Yeah.
But this is not the only, this also features the other man who played Jason in 2 different movies. Ken Kersinger, that we'll see when they get to New York eventually.
So Jason punches the mirror basically just to make mirror shards.
I like how he's like sorting through them, looking for the right one.
Like, which is the right one? Yeah. I did right here. Jason looks good at sea. Constantly wet is always good for horror effects. That's just like one of those tiny things that I think is always better, with goopy monsters. A dry monster looks fake. No matter what it is, just like hose them down before every shot with slime or water or whatever. And some people don't like the look of Jason in this one, and I think he actually looks good. I kind of dig how the light like kind of reflects off of his wet clothes, and he just looks downtrodden.
I like that he's goopy. He's been underwater for years.
Yes.
Think of the smells.
Oh my God.
And like that's something that like that doesn't make much sense if you think about it that way. When he like goes into the sauna to kill the guy would be like, hey Julius, have you just been bathing in fish guts? Like
what reeks? Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah, he stabs her in the back with a mirror shard. Storm is starting to develop again, and Jason grabs for a harpoon and stabs one of the deckhands in the back. The camera's looking through a rainy window, and I think that shot actually looks pretty good. Poor old Captain. Again, I like this guy. He just got a machete to the front of his throat. And as he's discovering his deckhand's body, poor old dad.
Surprisingly bloodless.
Yes.
Like this is a pretty tame Friday the 13th compared to what we've seen before. There's just not a whole lot of blood.
And it was cut back by the MPAA like all these are, but at the same time, I never got the impression that Hedder was like really going for it. Like there were here and there, but I've watched some deleted scenes and watched him talk about it, but it didn't seem like he was like trying to go super over the top.
No, it seemed like he wanted more stunts than gore.
Sure.
You know, those kind of effects.
Non-blade oriented things, I suppose.
Yes, yeah.
You know? Sean finds his dad at the wheel. Did Jason prop the captain up at the wheel?
Yeah, Jason propped the captain up at the wheel, and I think
I like that.
Jason's nautical knowledge is interesting in this one. Like how he knows later that like what the radio is and how to destroy it.
Yes.
Destroying the phones at the cabin make more sense to me, given like his backstory, but here's like, no, I know how to disable this vessel.
Right.
I trained with the Navy SEALs when I was 5. But the idea of like, I don't want to crash. Jason has crashed before. He knows when someone's at a wheel.
Yep.
And you kill them, they're bad. So he's like, well, I'm just going to keep this going straight. I'll just prop the body up against the wheel and we'll keep that boat going straight.
You know,
I'm sure it'll be fine.
I didn't even think about that. He like, yeah, the boat has to keep going. I thought he was just being like a naughty nautical boy and just propping up the dead cabin.
That's what this horror movie should have been called, the naughty nautical boy.
Yes.
But that's actually a much more realistic in terms of this movie. What actually happened versus by like, oh, he was consciously navigating this course. Yeah, the reality is Jason was just like, it'd be funny if I stood this dude up. That's what he does.
So yeah, Sean calls everybody to the bridge and tries to call the Coast Guard. And just what you mentioned, Jason pulls the plug on the communication, just like he always does. The radio is deader than that guy's dad right there. And so we've got... Jason Voorhees has been dead for years. The Harbinger is back.
You're all gonna die. You're the last ones. He's come back for you.
What the hell are you talking about?
Jason Voorhees.
You're insane. Jason Voorhees has been dead for years.
He came down the river and he's gotten on board.
I do love the, you're the one who is insane, and then he scuttles out.
And then he runs off. And then,
I like that guy.
That makes the cross-field team be like, well, it's clearly that guy.
Yeah.
But then their big way to combat that is like, you know what we should do is split up.
And drop anchor.
Yeah.
Jason chases Ava into the disco room that we saw briefly earlier in the film. And I actually kind of dig this scene. This is one of the more memorable sequences in the film. And again, it brings up the most bilocating Jason that you've ever seen.
Yeah, like conceptually, I get what they're trying to do, but the execution of it doesn't really work. Is that she's kind of freaked out and that she's like spinning around on the dance floor, and Jason just seems to be everywhere. But rather than have it be this like I'm scared and he just seems to be everywhere, he is actually everywhere. Like I don't have like a better solution to how you would have done this.
Yep.
But it just seems like Jason is just warping all over the place.
And the director, this is another point where the director just said, like, I just like the idea of it. And just like, I don't care. And again, I respect that. Go for it.
Yeah, I respect it, but it's just like I wish there was the follow through. You know,
sure.
I feel like he probably got that on his school papers a lot. Like, you know, as a student that was not saying anything like, well, he just doesn't try that hard. Like he could be doing better.
Yeah.
But that's just, no, I got this. I'm pretty sure. So
it's fine.
She's seen this stuff, and like eventually Jason comes up on her and picks her up, and it's sort of the Superman problem where you have so often in the Superman movies and comics, like he'll put forth the same, like he'll strain a lot to lift a car the same way he'll strain to like lift a mountain. Whereas like Jason could just crunch her head. We've seen him punch through people. Yeah. We'll see him do something ridiculous a little bit later in one of my favorite bits of the movie. Takes him a while to kill Ava. And so I was thinking about that, but then the post-kill throw is fantastic. Yeah. And Kelly Hu totally down for it. Like, did some stunts. And because he just, in a long shot, just tosses her. And she just hits that ground. Oh, that was brutal. And I loved it.
Like, you can tell that's not a stunt double. Yeah. Basically. Like, she did the stunt really, really well. Tossing somebody on the floor. Gotta hurt.
That's a thing you reckon. Like, I've fallen down before. I've fallen down several times during this podcast. I know what that feels like. I don't know what it feels like to be stabbed with a whole bunch of mirror stuff or you know, a hot rock in my face or gut or any other number of kills that have happened here. But like when you see that, you're like, oh, I know what that sort of feels like. So it makes it 100 times worse.
Definitely. Yeah. And the shot looks pretty. We cut to Miles, who's running around the bowels of the ship, which, of course, is very Elm Street style. Like in the boiler room is what I kept thinking of. It's either that or Railing Kills.
Well, and that's that same kind of, very sort of extreme lighting, through grates and stuff like that.
It's Freddy's furnace room. And we get him filming POV. He finds a body on the ground and he slowly tilts up to reveal Jason, like a good cinematographer would, not somebody who's scared.
And then again, another great throw. Jason picks up the dude, throws him against the electrical panel, shorts the entire ship. Which I like that Rob Hedden was like, well, someone's got to get electrocuted. So we got to do this.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
McCullough, he thinks it's the deckhand. And so Jason walks up behind one of the other kids and just throws an axe while everybody is out on the deck hunting for Jason. So now everybody's splitting up into teams.
Some guy confronts Jason, just this bowl cut dude that's with Sean at the beginning. Like they never really give him a name.
I thought that was the case. Yeah.
Yeah. Jason throws the axe away and it lands right in front of Julius. And Julius just goes off in the other direction.
Yeah.
Which I would too. I would be like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going that way. There's axes. And Jason follows that guy up, the bowl cut guy up this ladder, tosses him off the ladder, and the guy lands on something. And this is when I was definitely like, okay, they're just not showing gore in this at all. And it turns out, I guess they were saving that for a reveal of that he's impaled on, I think it's the radio tower.
I couldn't identify what that was.
I don't want to land on it.
Yeah,
I know that.
But it clearly impales a teenager.
Yeah. It's bad for torsos.
Yeah. Rennie sees another vision. The vision is clearly Jason is shivering, but it looks so awkward. And again, I don't want to make fun of a child actor too much taking direction, but he's clearly over shivering.
Yeah, I don't know what the emotion there is supposed to be. He's just sort of undulating, and it's weird. But it's also because I don't know what that even is.
Yeah,
what that's supposed to be. What her relationship to that thing. It's all just kind of silly.
But I mean, it's got to be something cool. It's got to be some sort of there's a reason that she's having a vision. How she knows this, it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah,
she gets grabbed through the porthole by Jason, and she takes out a Stephen King's pen, stabs Jason in the eye. Now, what I love about this is Jason literally just backs up and pulls it out of his eye. That's it.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. It doesn't hurt. A little bit of goop comes out.
Well, yeah, I like the single tier of goop, A2 Steve.
Ship starts to flood. So this, I'm like, okay, they're amping it up a little bit. McCullough is doubling down on not another word about Jason. Do you hear me? And then Harbinger walks out with an axe in his back. Or deckhand. I keep calling him Harbinger, but that's what he is.
Yeah, I mean, he is. They wanted a Ralph.
Yeah. Lightning hits the boat and the remaining people start to abandon ship. And while Jason just watches, and I kind of like that shot of Jason just looking over the edge because I'm like, well, what do you do now, Jason? These people are getting away from you. Do you care to chase them? Is the boat now your territory? People start rowing through kind of a goofy sequence of them trying to get out of the boat.
Julius, who he threw out of the boat, resurfaces. But yeah, then you get the interminable rowing away scene. Oh my God.
Yeah. Good. Just get us there, guys.
Yeah. You could have just been in Manhattan. It's fine. I don't gain anything from this.
But then the fog parts and we get a beautiful shot of the Statue of Liberty. And that's when we can all cheer that we're finally in Manhattan.
We finally made it.
Jason has swum the whole way, I guess.
Apparently.
Climbs up a ladder, gets onto the dock, immediately sees an advertisement on a billboard with a hockey mask. Kind of cute, I guess.
It's a throwaway gag. It was fine. Yeah, it didn't bother me.
We're so off the rails now from part one, and the seriousness of that kind of stuff.
I had said in the part 2 episode that the biggest leap that you've had to make in this series, or possibly will make in this series, is the fact that Jason is alive. That the end of part 1 is just whatever. This is close. This tested me almost as much though. Because it's just the clear I don't care behind it. It's just the clear he just needs to get here. He's here. Yeah. I'm 8 movies into this, man.
Yeah.
Can we try? You don't care, and it hurts to watch.
The director literally says the whole line, let the audience decide, which is a fake highfalutin version of well, I'm giving it over to the audience. No, you're not trying.
You just didn't. There's a million ways you could have got him there. It doesn't like, did he strap himself to the bottom of the boat like Max Cady in Cape Fear? Sure, do
been
that.
okay with that, yeah.
Yeah, but just no, it's like, no, he's just here.
In fact, the one job of a director is to make decisions. And you can't just be like, well, I'm not going to decide that part.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't care.
This is where the Reagan 80s really kicks in hard because immediately the students are robbed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like literally not 30 seconds on deck. Robbed. Because this is what happens in the big city.
Yes.
Rennie is kidnapped. This scene does like take a turn for like a little bit darker than some of the previous ones. It does spin things a little bit differently because Rennie gets kidnapped. These two gang guys are about ready to inject her with some sort of drug. And
they do?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, they do inject her. And Jason comes out of the fog of nowhere, somehow, like, I guess followed her, and saves her by killing the two gangster guys.
Yeah.
Where's Jason's moral compass? You know,
Well,
is what I want to know.
They have some connection, clearly. When that's going
to be a pretty
revealed.
cool, like, occult, like maybe they're twins, maybe they've got magical,
some like Laurie Strode thing, like he's actually, you know, maybe she's a Voorhees. Yeah, when they reveal this, it's all going to make sense, and that's going to be great.
Yep.
He kills the first one by stabbing him through the back with the needle.
That's kind of fun.
And again, it punches through him because it's Jason. You got to stab through something. Then to his credit, he does get distracted because the other guy shows up, who's been sent off to go buy more drugs.
Oh yeah,
comes back, it's like, I forgot my wallet, and then starts shooting at Jason, giving Rennie time to escape. Although, like, whatever drug they gave Rennie, not a problem.
Doesn't affect her at all.
What has Rennie been up to in Crystal Lake? This is nothing.
Yeah.
This has been stepped on so much. I get the pure shit back at Crystal Lake.
Right. Cutting to Julius is in the phone booth just trying to say, hey, there's a murderer on the loose. Come get us. Jason crashes through the phone booth, but he escapes. Julius runs up a ladder to top of the building, which is the stand-in for the grand Madison Square Garden boxing scene.
Right.
So,
in Vancouver, where they shot a lot of this movie, because that's what you do when you're shooting in New York, particularly if you're Jackie Chan. Julius is the real hero of this movie because he's the only one who like does anything. Because he's like, we gotta fight Jason. No. Let's all just stay here and wait. Let's all split up. Then he tries to fight Jason, gets thrown off. Yeah, he's calling for help.
Yeah.
No one else has done anything. And I was like, well, let's just freak out about it for a while. And then, he has the chance to, Jason gets him on top of the roof, and Julius just starts slugging him. And they were really doing it. Kane Hodder was taking the blows that this guy was dishing out. Vincent Craig Dupree, VC Dupree. And he was saying that, that was all real. And like when you, at the end of the fight, when you see his knuckles bloodied and something, he's like, that was real. I've been punching that mask. Which was the thing I kind of was like, why are you doing all these face punches? He's got armor up there. Work the body.
Yeah,
come on, body. Julius.
Yeah, he did say that for some of the wide shots, they had a professional up there. But the professional knew how to pull his punches, which is a skill, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Julius didn't have. The VC didn't have. So he was just wailing on Kane Hodder. And Kane, to his credit, was just like, just keep going to it, dude. You know, each take, just keep pummeling me 66 times or something like that to the body.
And then he gets tired from over punching. And it's like,
your best shot. Motherfucker.
Jason just rock'em sock'em robots that guy, just knocks his block clean off. The head falls off a building into a dumpster closes. Love it.
Done.
Always good. Wish there were 3 prosthetic heads. There was the light one that you could throw, the heavy one that would hit the dumpster, and then the one they use for when it appears later.
And VC got to keep the hero head.
That is so cool.
That's fun. Yeah, that's the best kill in the movie, I think, by far and away.
This is so silly. And like the movie wants to be this the whole way through, and it's just kind of straining against that. And so this is the one time the movie really felt like it was doing what it set out to do.
Yeah. And again, fewer blades, knives, axes, that kind of thing. It's just we're going to knock somebody's head off.
I will give credit to Rob Hedden for like trying to be inventive in ways to do this. It wasn't just Jason like, I found this machete, now everyone gets macheted.
Then we start to ramp up the action here, and it gets a little convoluted to me, but everybody's just like, oh yeah, Jason followed us. Okay, now we got to get away from him. They get into a cop car only to find Julius's head. So Jason has dug through the dumpster, mounted it in the cop car. you know.
Yes.
But he's mounted heads before. Like, that's not new. But I love the idea of him just like rummaging through the dumpster and like getting it out, placing it. That's fun.
Well, I'm guessing that the cop car had one of those like dashboard Jesuses or something like that.
Oh, there you
just
go.
like affix the head onto, because it'd be hard to just get it to just stay there. A lot of time trying to wedge it just so.
Right.
Then he closes the door and it falls down. It's fuck. And has to do it all again.
They're coming. Yeah. Like our remaining people get into the cop car. They see Julius's head. The cop gets pulled away by Jason. And they drive off, and she has another vision of a slightly more older Jason standing in the road, really needing to up the ante with these vision shots, you know, at this point.
So she hits Jason with the cop car, which is actually the other actor with the other Jason in this that we mentioned earlier, not Kane Hodder, because they were like, well, we need everyone else to beat him up. Yeah, let's not hit him with a car. But yeah, she sees this Jason who now this child version of Jason looks more ghoulish. She tries to crash into him in very slow mo. Then I thought something happened to the video I was watching. As you just start like the sound drops out and it starts like stuttering, and I'm like, oh, what's going on with my internet? But crashes it, and I really like the dissolve when she's staring at this burning puddle of oil that then she sees the boat start to go across and it becomes Crystal Lake, and I like that transition, and this leads to, at long last, the connection between her and Jason.
So she's clearly like a part of a coven of witches who've been tracking him down, like maybe like occult scientists. Maybe she's a Voorhees, like you said. Something really cool, I bet.
Something really, really cool. What it is her and her uncle, the crusty Dean, that's taking care of her. They're in a boat, and he's like,
I think the time has come for your first swimming lesson. You don't want to end up drowning like that Voorhees boy, do you? He never learned how to swim either. He's still in the bottom of this lake.
He is not.
Yes, indeed he is. And he's ready to pull down anybody who falls in and can't swim.
You're telling a lie.
Am I? Let's find out.
and then she gets pulled under the water by a boy Jason, who is still down there. Again, no one dredges Crystal Lake. Like, a boy died down there. That's too bad. Oh, there's a dead guy. Look, doesn't matter. Well, the bodies will just go away. It's fine.
See, I didn't know how to take this in a lot of ways because you can get really like analytical about the supernatural elements and just be like, okay, I mean, obviously this whole connection just sucks.
Yes.
This is just, it's so dumb. It's
a long way to go for so little.
I'm just thinking like, was she seeing the actual body of Jason? Or was she seeing a vision of him, like the supernatural guy who he becomes? Like, how literal am I supposed to take this vision?
Apparently, based on the end of the movie, very.
Sure. And you could say the end of the first one, very literally, because he's been down underwater for a long time.
Then he's still there.
It's like if you had this at the front of the movie, I wouldn't be nearly as irritated by it because you've spent so long like teasing this out and obfuscating it and making me curious that when you reveal it and it's
so
okay,
boring.
It still doesn't explain anything. Like, so Jason tried to get you and he didn't. So why are you having these visions why are you putting it together in your head? Do you know that this is the Jason Voorhees? You don't get a scene of them finding the newspaper clippings or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
Like, why is this happening? It doesn't explain anything really. It just explains that, or just tells you that she almost got killed by Ghost.
Yeah,
when she was a kid. Like, it's really, you're really left wanting on what any of this actually means for a big like revelation scene.
Yeah, and again, you're right. Like they play it for that giant revelation scene, and that makes it worse.
It's just a turd in a bathtub. It's just.
Or a Jason in a bathtub.
Because her whole fear of water thing really is just it doesn't matter. You get the one scene where she almost drowns. Yeah, that's bad. But does it serve a larger plot? Not really.
Yeah.
She doesn't like overcome this fear at the end, by actually being, it just doesn't make any sense.
And doesn't McCullough just start taunting her too? Like, you better start to learn before Jason pulls you down. So he's like kind of like doubly an asshole, just being like, I'm going to add the fear to this, like, this legend of a young boy that pulls people down to the fact that you can't swim.
Is that actually him? Is that is that her freaking out so much because that's what he told her that Jason pulls down people who can't? So I guess it is because she's having visions about him. So very very sloppily done.
We break out of the flashback and McCullough gets chased by Jason into some like shitty looking like New York building. Runs up a few flights and Jason is there first.
Of course he is.
Who cares?
I get it would make sense if it were the woods. If this were Jason's territory,
there
it would
you go.
make sense.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Thought.
Yeah. If it's like, no, I know these woods and I can get around or whatever. But this is like, I don't know where I am. But
he's
guess
never
what?
been to a city.
He actually maybe that this explains the whole thing. He was actually born in Manhattan. That's why he's so evil and crime filled.
Yeah, sure. Then we see McCullough get drowned in a barrel. And
this is a close second to the head because this was the barrel that we saw in the opening credits and it just
with a rat in it.
I'm sorry we didn't mention it. It's just beautiful. A guy tosses a wallet after that he's just stolen into this gross barrel full of nastiness, and then a rat climbs out and it's just hanging around like, "Hey, buddy, I'm swimming here."
Yeah,
and,
I'm in New York. I'm a rat.
Yeah. And so to have it come back, rat's dead now. It's floating on top. Or it's a different rat. I don't know.
Could be.
This is one of those, like, they get their comeuppance things that actually works. Because it's some of the other movies, like Melissa just gets, in the last one, the mean girl gets killed. This is like, I'm kind of happy to see an agent from Harm just get shoved in some goo.
And he said that it was one of the worst experiences of his acting career. And I can see why.
Yeah, it does not seem pleasant.
No dummies used in that. He was actually like underwater the entire time.
Oh, I mean, credit to doing it. But that's got to suck. An actor.
Yeah. Rennie and Sean are having a close moment where she just kind of reveals out of the blue that her parents died in a car accident. and
again, would have been nice to know at the beginning. Why are we waiting this long?
Interrupted by Jason, he chases them down into the subway. Even managing to walk through a plate glass door, which I was waiting for, him just like walking through a wall. I love that.
Yeah.
Someone pulls the emergency brake and it makes Jason stumble. And I was just thinking like, oh, he didn't have his subway legs yet, I was just
sea legs.
Yeah, I was just there a week ago and it came back to me like immediately because like there's just a certain way you like stand on the train. You're just like, oh, this is gonna be like wobble around.
Yeah.
Jason doesn't know that,
Well, I mean, to his credit, he just did swim like 20 miles.
True. That's true.
Or walk on the ocean. I don't know. So the train stopped. People are complaining. They escape. Jason follows them off the train and Sean just blindsides him, hurling him onto the third rail.
Yep.
And I thought that was cool.
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh, there's still like 10 minutes left of this movie.
Yeah, it happened so fast. And I half remembered the ending and I was just like, gosh, managed to like take him out so quickly and like out of nowhere. And I was like, I feel a little unsatisfied. It's like, okay, there's a whole nother bit. Rennie and Sean are just like disoriented and like they feel like happy they escaped him and everything. They look back and they see Jason coming up out of the subway as he does.
So they're in Times Square now.
He then runs past these punks. He kicks their stereo. And when they start like getting upset with him, he turns around and reveals his face to them, which was like, it's a good gag and I like it. But to me, I just can't help but think like, do we like read a lot into the motivation of Jason right here? Because he's only going after the people that he wants to go after.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he hack up these punks?
Right. Yeah. Why is he having a bit of fun with them? That doesn't seem like Jason.
Not at all.
It's a funny gag, but just doesn't seem like it's something that they thought was a funny thing to do without really thinking why it would be funnier. Like, does that fit with the rest of the movie?
Right.
Again, like, and Rob Hedden seems like a lovely guy and very charismatic, whatever. So I can see people be like, oh yeah, sure. Okay. That sounds fun. But yeah, it just seems like he didn't think that through much at all.
But again, like, what do? Just have Jason like literally kill everybody on the street of Manhattan?
Yeah.
Like that would be
awesome.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, this is a case of like maybe Jason realized he's in the punks territory now, and like he does not have to attack them necessarily.
I mean, Spock stood up to punks more than Jason did.
Right. He then walks right through a diner wall, so I guess that's even better than the plate glass bit because he has to walk through a wall in each film. And then we get the dumb kind of 80s throwaway line of,
Look, you don't understand. There is a maniac trying to kill us. Welcome to New York.
Jason follows them in, and this is where you get the other Jason in this film and eventually another film. Giant fellow, Ken Kersinger. He's just a chef there, which is funny, a funny little throwback, intentional or not, to the first one when Annie stops at the diner at the very beginning. There's that big hulking guy that's sweeping up.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just he's been in other movies, but that was my first thought. I was like, oh, it's like that guy. I mean, this movie lifts from other, pretty heavily from Seven in terms of some of the character archetypes it's doing and stuff like that. So why not go all the way back to the first one?
Yeah. He just gets thrown into the window at that point. It's hard to say, like, does he die? Does that count as a death? I'll assume so. They go down in the sewer. And this is one of my favorite, like, tiny elements in this movie. We don't have to go step by step through the sewer, but they run into a sewer guy down there, and he says,
"What the hell are you kids doing down here? Can you help us get out of here?" "Sure can, but we haven't got a minute to spare." "What do you mean?" "Toxic waste, son. The sewer floods out with this stuff every night at midnight."
Like, somebody who lives outside of New York just assumes they must flood the sewers with toxic waste every night at midnight there. And
because it's so scummy. That's how they get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Or it's honestly like, I can see current Mayor Eric Adams being like, this is a strategy to make Ninja Turtles to fight crime.
I was just going to say, every night at midnight they make new Ninja Turtles.
We're going to try to make some new Ninja Turtles because it's that dumb.
Yep, we have a new city ordinance for splinters. You can sign up to be a splinter, and you will be assigned your Ninja Turtles. And
they send you down in the sewer with an animal of your choice taped to you, and they will just flood it.
Jason jumps them, takes the wrench from the worker's head and bonks him on the head with him. We start to realize that the sewer is in fact filling up with toxic waste, and our heroes are running.
There are barrels of toxic waste,
right? Just down there.
Yeah.
Rennie and Sean are trying to get away. She screams,
"You give me the leg, and you're not gonna get me now."
The eternal struggle of Jason grabbing her in the lake is
the one that got away, I guess,
20 years on or some shit. Like,
there have been 7 that have gotten away now. Oh, I'm sorry, 6, because he did get Alice. Again, their connection makes no sense. But this is she throws a bunch of toxic waste at him, which actually seems to do something. And I like that as a concept in that, like, toxic waste, this stuff that should not be being used against this man who should not be.
Sure.
But what it causes him to do is freak out, take off his mask, revealing that he's a garbage pail kid.
Yeah.
The makeup here is not
my favorite.
It's better than I could do, but it looks very cheesy compared to what we've seen before. Even going like all the way back.
Sure.
This is some goofy ass puppet stuff.
I like that a new effects team can take their own stab at it.
Yeah, but I mean, certainly there's barely been any coherency to his look throughout it. So sure,
that's fine. But did not quite work.
No, when you see him later, it's better when it's not just the puppet, but it's still not great.
The sewer floods the pipeline. They're holding on to the ladder. Jason drowns in it. Very New York in the 80s ending. And she sees him as a drowned boy here.
Well, this is amazing. Because he starts, when he sees the water coming, he starts vomiting water.
Right.
Which is something, first of all, that Kane Hodder just did.
He just did.
That's not an effect. Yeah. Kane Hodder just can do that.
Pretty
apparently.
Cool. Yeah.
Which is, amazing. But it's also, I am fascinated by this version of Jason, this idea of like that he is this living trauma of his drowning.
Sure.
At the same time, I don't think the 8th movie is the time to try to garner sympathy for.
Yeah.
I don't think this far along people are like, but what's he feel inside? So that was an odd choice. And apparently there was a whole thing where the small boy was going to flow out of Jason's mouth.
Yeah.
They made a giant head for the kid to swim out of.
I would have been all for that.
Yes,
I would have been all for that.
I'm already going, what the fuck? If you went that hard at what the fuck?
Yes.
Absolutely. But it didn't look right. It could look too fakey.
Yeah.
That does add a more supernatural element to it, that he is like this small boy surrounded by trauma and hate, and with all that wiped away, very badly executed, but a kernel of an idea there that I think is interesting, but just very badly done.
And I didn't even understand it at first. Is she seeing a vision of him like that, or is that actually physically Jason washing away and turning into a young boy?
Yeah, is that what Sean is seeing as well, or is it is he just seeing a gross guy made even grosser?
Hockey mask floats away. Our two heroes embrace on the streets, and there's a really, really dumb fake out of the camera approaching them, and it's just the dog. Whatever.
And I made the reference in 6 that McLaughlin was Joss Whedon. This guy's Damon Lindelof. This guy's like, I have all these like neat ideas, and then the execution is just. We'll do this dog scare like that. What a terrible payoff. Because like I didn't care about the dog. No. Apparently there was going to be a scene where they did something to the dog, but Kane Hodder was like, I'm not doing that. I don't think Jason would do that. But Jason did do it before. Justice for Muffin.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was old Jason. But so then we're back to the awful score. Not Manfredi this time. They got a different dude. And this was also the last one that Paramount was a part of.
And the last one that Mancuso Jr. was a part of.
This did not do well, largely for some of the reasons that we've outlined here. I think, really, really pitching the Manhattan thing. Like, it's a great idea, but that's not what the movie was.
Yeah.
And so that bummed people out. It's just not a very good movie. But, like I said, it's if it wasn't a Friday the 13th movie, I don't think I would have disliked it as much. I think it wouldn't have enjoyed it, but I would have cut it a lot more slack because I wouldn't just be going like, this seems off.
Yeah.
For being a continuation of what we've seen before.
I do love that Mancuso Jr. he talks about how at the time there was so much of the idea of like horror films in the mainstream press and how they affect children. And he was just like, I'm not so sure I can really be a part of this anymore. And I'm really conflicted. And I'm like, yeah, this one also only did $14.3 million. So maybe.
Ooh, I'm conflicted about moving into a bigger house.
Yeah, your moral compass is a little bit box office driven, perhaps.
He had a good out.
For all intents and purposes, he seemed like a pretty generous man with his time, and like he seemed perfectly okay. But I do find that pretty funny.
Sure, it's hard to take anything producers say without a grain of salt.
Absolutely. But yeah, this did have a really fun marketing campaign with the I Love New York stuff. The trailer,
which they got in trouble for, which is great.
They did. Yep. The trailer is fantastic. The first teaser trailer is amazing. It's shots. It's just one slow shot of the skyline of New York with a Frank Sinatra song playing in the background, pan down to reveal Jason Voorhees, and it's great.
I remember that as a kid.
Me too. Absolutely.
Yeah. Then like they had him go on Arsenio, which like I think they did that with Freddy Krueger too. Yeah. Which makes more sense because Freddy Krueger can talk.
And he's full of zingers.
Yeah. And kudos to Arsenio for like it's awkward as hell, but he tries. He does it.
But again, that's such an interesting time that you reach in these mainstream horror things, which is kind of like one of the impetuses for the idea of starting this podcast is just like, by that point, been through like 8 films, 9-10 years or so, and now our mass slasher is appearing on late night television.
Yeah.
In character. Like, he's like, beloved, like, hey, it's Jason Voorhees. He's walking out with an axe,
Hooray. Kill those teens. Kill those teens.
Exactly. I love that. It's so bizarre to me. But yeah.
Several times in this movie, I was using your phrase, the like, look how far we've come from Baghead. This is so bizarre compared to what we've done before. Because even the gothic weirdness of 6. Yeah. Is still like rooted in this basic idea of what Jason is, and this tries to take it new directions. So kudos to that, but it just doesn't. I don't want to make it sound like the source material is like this beloved thing, or holy thing, but it just seems like it forgot so much of what made Jason Jason, and in the attempt to try to do something new, forgot its roots.
Yeah, got to get back to the roots.
Yeah, go back to Crystal Lake, but he's not going to go back to Crystal Lake. He's going to go to hell.
All right, well, let's give the people who died in this film their due with the in memoriam. Jim Miller, played by Todd Caldecott, shot with a harpoon gun. Susie Donaldson, played by Tiffany Paulson, stabbed with a trident. J.J. Jarrett, played by Saffron Henderson, bashed with a flying V guitar. Boxer, played by David Jackox, sauna rock shoved into his stomach. Tamara Mason, played by Charlie Martin, stabbed with a mirror shard. Jim Carlson, played by Fred Henderson, stabbed in the back with a harpoon. Admiral Robertson, played by Warren Munson, throat slit with a machete. Eve Watanabe, played by Kelly Hu, strangled. Wayne Weber, played by Martin Cummins, thrown and electrocuted on a control panel. Miles Wolfe, played by Gordon Curie, thrown from a mast, impaled on metal rods. Harbinger deckhand, axe to the back. Holmes, played by Sam Sarker, stabbed with a syringe. Jojo, played by Michael Benier, head rammed into a metal pipe. Julius Gaul, played by V.C. Dupree, head punched clean off, falls in a dumpster. Officer Dale Ostendorf, played by Roger Barnes, strangled off screen. Colleen Van Dusen, played by Barbara Brigham, exploded in car crash. Charles McCullough, played by the great Peter Mark Rickman, drowned in a barrel of sewage. New York Cook, played by Ken Kersinger, thrown against a mirror. Sanitation worker, played by David Longworth, bludgeoned with a pipe wrench. And that's it. Jason has taken Manhattan, or at least he's stalked around there for 25 minutes. And
we had to cut this short. I could not, for the sake of the podcast, I could not include every single person in Manhattan in the in memoriam.
It was taken.
It was cut for time.
Millions of people.
Millions.
Yeah. This one definitely hurts a bit. I have fond memories of the next two. So I remember thinking as we were cresting 6, 7, and 8, I was like, ooh, these are a little bit tough. I liked 6 more than I remember that I did. 7 and 8 are a little tough. I think I'm looking forward to the next one.
All right, interesting. This one, I will give her credit for trying something. It just didn't do it. I think because 7 was just so boring. But this one wasn't great either. So I don't know. I'm still working on my cues. It keeps sort of shifting as I get, grading on a curve as I see these new movies. But the first few are still great. And I mean, I think that's going to be a common refrain for most of these. Of course. But I don't hate everything that's come afterwards. It's just this one and 5 are probably on my towards the bottom. But I still don't like 5 more than I don't like this.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Let us know what you thought of this one. I know this one does have its defenders, as everything does.
Leonard Maltin said it's the best one.
My goodness, I don't think I knew that. Wow.
Yeah, Leonard Maltin has some tastes.
If you're a Leonard Maltinite, let us know. Let us know why you liked it. That's all.
If you are Leonard Maltin and you're listening, I've got beef with you.
And come on and defend it. We'll look forward to next week with Jason Goes to Hell.
Jason goes right to hell.
Mm-hmm. All right. See you next week.
Goodbye.
This has been a Two Penguins media production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at thismayhurtabitpod and on Twitter at hurtabit. Email us at thismayhurtabit@gmail.com. And if you are so inclined, rate and review us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.